this and stuff, and we can join in because we're just getting everybody going. And, yeah. Yes. Please do a brief audio test. You got it, Jeff. This is the brief audio test. Hopefully this helps, and you're telling me what you're hearing in the stream, and the volume is good, and that should work. I'm just going to keep talking, Jeff. I'll practice reading some first names. Oh, wow, I looked down, looked up, place was getting full. Wait one more minute, Genie. Okay, Genie. Whenever you're ready, we'll just start Shabbat Shalom. Whenever you're ready.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom.
Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It's great to have you here with us. And also to those who are watching at home, it's great to have you with us on this Shabbat evening as the sun is setting and Shabbat is coming closer. It's great to have Genie along with us on the bima this Friday night to help us out. And our pianist is under the weather, but that's okay. We wish him a refuah shlema, and we wish John a refuah shlema. And we are joined on the bima by our president, Russ Schultz, that you know, of course, and some of you know Cindy Simon, a member of our board of directors and part of the professional team at the Federation of Fort Worth and Tarrant County. And we are also joined on the bima by our Benot Mitzvah, Jennifer and Elizabeth Florsheim, who will lead us in worship tomorrow morning, but will also lead us in some prayers we'll join in tonight as they get ready for their Benot Mitzvah weekend, their service tomorrow, and will also lead us in prayers. So when they do lead us, feel free to join, and even though they have beautiful voices and you'll want to just listen to them, we want to help them get used to leading us in prayer, but we're really glad to have them with us as well this Shabbat. First thing we do is just get ready for Shabbat. And by the way, of course, I forgot also the people that watch at home. And I don't always remember to introduce myself, but we know that in addition to our members who tune in many Friday nights and Saturdays, we also have people who are just on YouTube looking for services. And we know this because just last week I got a wonderful card from a couple in Virginia that said, "Thank you for the High Holy Days. Here's a gift for the temple." So I don't know who's watching, but my name is Rabbi Brian Zimmerman, and this is Beth-El of Fort Worth, and we're glad you're here with us on this Shabbat. Some people call the Hebrew month of Cheshvan Mar Cheshvan. Mar means bitter, which I always thought was a strange thing for rabbis to say, because they say it's a bitter month because it doesn't have any Jewish holidays. But I would think you'd think it was a sweet month because you had nothing to worry about, just the usual temple stuff. This is one of the few Jewish months with no Jewish holiday whatsoever. And so as we move out of Simchat Torah and into just October, where we have lots of other holidays but no Jewish holidays, I think that's interesting because calling something Mar Cheshvan reminds us that we sometimes mark our days by the grand events, the coming of age of two women, or Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, or birth and death and all the great moments. But in a way, Cheshvan should remind us that there is holiness in every moment, with every day, with every breath. And too often we capture that at those dramatic moments, whether those dramatic moments are Yom Kippur, or seeing a friend we haven't for years, or getting a call about a loss, or the birth of a baby. But holiness also occurs in all those moments we like to call ordinary time. Shabbat reminds us there's really no such thing as ordinary time. There may be days we sanctify and days we don't sanctify. But the challenge at the end of the week is to remember that a whole week of moments that have the opportunity for holiness have passed, and a whole new week with the moments of holiness comes. So take a moment, give thanks for being here together. We have a lot of friends of the Florsheim family and friends and family, so we wave to and welcome you, whether you're watching in here or whether you're watching out there. We welcome our members who are with us this Shabbat, and just take a moment to think about perhaps something we ran over when we were running or driving or going from the week. Think about the moments that may not have been Mar Cheshvan. They might have, actually we were in a different month, but there might have been just holy moments we missed. Take a moment to be in this place. It's hard when the rabbi's talking, but take a moment to think about maybe a moment you want to carry with you into the next week. A moment in which something special happened that you might have normally just missed. Some new beginning, some new learning. Maybe a call, maybe an email, maybe someone who smiled at you in the store, maybe a message from someone you'd forgotten about, maybe a doctor's visit where they said, "You look okay to me." We don't always rejoice. It's more the moments when they say you're better than we were. But the moments we're okay. And okay is a sacred moment. Those are the moments when we sanctify the day. So even with your mask, just take a deep breath. Page 120, Kimberly Florsheim will light our candles for this Shabbat. And if you haven't figured it out by her last name already, is your wonderful, is Emily coming up as well? That's great. And if you didn't figure it out, Kimberly is the mom of Elizabeth and Jennifer, and Emily, and Dakota, and Callie.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Please read with me on page 125. Actually, responsively. We'll do it that way. Give you a second to catch your breath. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat abide.
Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time. Contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of frantic life.
Let me learn to pause if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat abide. We turn to page 142. Page 142 for Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedkem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Page 145. Let's read together in the middle of the page. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days. Lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my way. Page 146, we rise for the Baruch Hu. Et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Leolam Vaed. Let's read together on page 148. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night, and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. We turn to page 152, and we continue with Shema.
Shema Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto
Leolam Va'ed.
Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Page 154.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha
B'chol levavcha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'odecha,
v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzvotecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibartam v'shivtecha v'techa uvletecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshatam leot al yadecha v'hayu totafot bein einecha uv'tavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha Leman tiskeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Page 157. We read together at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught
before,
forever we stood
at Sinai's foot, that
wherever we go
is eternally Egypt,
that there is a better way, promised land,
that the winding way to that promise
passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים זלינו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Page 160. Let's read together. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us.
For you, God, are merciful.
Gracious and merciful.
Guard our coming and going to life and to peace.
Evermore.
Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, all Yerushalayim. Turn to page 162, and we sing of the joy of Shabbat, these words from the Torah.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beni uvein b'nei Yisrael et hi leolam, et hi leolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Keshesh yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
To those who are here, stay right where you are. To those at home, you might not have noticed this, but you know, when you work with students and you work with bar and bar mitzvah students, what if we make a mistake? If you make a mistake, you just keep going, right? But I'm up here and I am so enjoying having you next to me. You've been working for well over a year. Oh, maybe a lot more, over and over and over getting ready. And I was so enjoying it. I haven't had a bar about mitzvah student next to me on a Friday night in like 2 years. I can say, and I was so enjoying it. People say, Rabbi, just get into the service. Why do you worry about the cues? Get into the service. So I was so into enjoying you and Genie that I turned around to the Florsheim and I said, never told anybody to sit back down. Now, before I do, you're just where you need to be because we're going to rise for the Amidah. And the next time I'll tell you to sit down. So the lesson is, Rabbi, don't enjoy the service too much. Don't enjoy praying with the Benot Mitzvah because you'll forget to give everybody their cue. And you can see what happened. They just kept standing. It wasn't the end of the world. They just got a little tired. So now you know for tomorrow. So we're going to tell them what? We're going to tell them to please remain standing. Yes, but we'll let you sit soon. And we are going to turn to page 164. And as we continue with Amidah, yes, please remain standing.
Adonai Sifataktivta Ufia Gita Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah El Elyon Gomer Hasadim Tovim Vikone Hakol, Vizoher Haste Avot Bimao, Ume Vigula Livne Vinehem, Mashimo Behahava, Melech Ozer Umashia Umagin, Arukata Adonai, Magin Avraham, Vizrat Sarah. Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Akol, Ata Rav Loshia, Mechakel Hayim Behesed, Mechaye Hakol Berachamim Ravim, Somech Novim Virofei Holim, Umatir Asorim, Umakayim, Emunatov, Lishanei Afar, Mika Moka, Baal Gevurot, Umidomela, Melech Mimit, Umakayim, Umatzmia Yeshua, V'ned Manata Lechayotako, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye Hakol.
Please be seated. You guys can stay right here. Don't go anywhere. We'll go again in a minute. We join together on page 171. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. In the next 7 or 8 pages, take a moment to look through the book, to look at the readings, to look at the Hebrew, to look at the English, to look at the windows, or just to take some time to enjoy this moment for silent prayer. Maybe to notice that it gets a little darker each week as fall comes and winter comes when we gather in this sanctuary.
Oh, say shalom.
Oh, say shalom in Roma. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oh, say shalom in Roma. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oh, say shalom in Roma. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu, mi'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu, mi'al kol Yisrael. Everybody's heard a lot of the Rabbi the last few weeks, so I'm not going to take too much of your time tonight, but I have to point out that we are reading from the beginning of the Torah tomorrow. That Elizabeth and Jennifer will be reading from Bereshit. One of the things about Bereshit is there are, oh my gosh, the sky's the limit, 400 sermons, and they get to pick what they want to read from. And tomorrow they're reading from the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent and God and the Garden of Eden and the choices that people make. And they're going to talk about personal responsibility and the events of life and when seemingly bad events turn into good events. And I'm not going to say more because that's their sermons tomorrow. But I was so impressed with what they did, man, I couldn't talk about those things because that would be stealing. But there's so much in the Torah portion, from the creation of the world to the nature of the creation of the world, to God's role, to Cain and Abel, everything, the Tower of Babel, everything that leads us up to the story of Noah and the ark next week. It is an incredibly ripe Torah portion. It is also just 4 days after Simchat Torah, when we end the Torah and we begin the Torah. So the Torah is really weighted to my left right now, because it's all the very, very beginning of the scroll as we begin again, as we start all over again with creation. Rabbi Jeff Salkin, talking about this Torah portion, says you could push these 5 books of the Torah into the following. He says you've got the beginning, you've got Get Out of Egypt, you've got the Jews hearing the divine voice again, you've got the Jews getting lost, and then Moses repeats it all, so we can repeat all over again. And that is Jeffrey Salkin's, even though he wrote several books about the Torah portion in 5 books in 5 steps. Another way you might think about the Torah portion is the directions on the back of the shampoo bottle. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Only when I was older did someone say, the whole repeat thing is just to get you to use more shampoo. I didn't know that. Maybe that isn't it. But the idea of over and over and over, turn it over, turn it over, turn it over, look again and again and again. There is a moment in the movie, Lies My Father Told Me. It's about a 35-year-old movie about an immigrant family in Montreal in the 1920s. Great movie by Jan Kadar, in which the enlightened, free-thinking Marxist turns to Zadie, the old rags peddler with his horse and his cart, getting ready to take his grandson for another day of selling rags and everything, who isn't quite buying into the new world yet. And he says to him, I have a great new book for you to read. To which Zadie says, I read one book over and over and over every year, and that's the only book I've ever read. And then they have a little debate about free will and thought. Not that you should only read one book, but that is the Torah. But how do we read one book over and over and over again? How do we revisit the same thing constantly? Well, the answer may be that it's not the same book over and over again. We turn, for example, to the story of Abraham and Sarah, the first Jews, which we will come to in only a few short weeks. We think about their journey through the land. We think about the homes they set up in new places, forced to leave the place of their birth. We think about the journeys and the tests they are forced to make with their children. It seems like the same story. But the stories, the adventures, the journeys of Abraham and Sarah are not the same stories. If you read them as a child, if you read them as a young adult, if you read them as a parent, if you read them as a grandparent, if you read them as someone who has lost and loved and been challenged and risen from some of those challenges, failed from some of those challenges, you read the exact same story each year, but the story calls out to you in different ways. Ben Bog tells us in the Talmud, turn the Torah over and over and over again. There is nothing new in it, nothing old in it. It is all new. So every year we rinse and repeat. Every year we begin again. Every year we search for some sort of new awareness, because we change and Torah changes. The way we look at the world changes. New wisdom speaks to us. To read about the sacrifices that Abraham and Sarah and their children make as the first Jews is a very, very different process if you've had a child. It's a very, very different process if you've lost a friend. It's a very, very different process if you're returning to the home of your childhood many years later for the first time. And so, my suggestion to you on this Shabbat, where we begin Bereshit all over again, and we say, oh, I know that story. Every year it's the creation of the world. Can't they come up with a new story? My advice to you is to think about one of your favorite Torah stories. Or if you weren't Jewish growing up, your favorite Bible stories, your favorite Sunday school stories. And maybe it's a story you have not read in a few years. And you don't have to do it on the week that we read it from the Torah. I would say a great New Year vow is to say, a great Jewish New Year vow, I'm going to pick a story that I always loved, but I haven't looked at it in a few years because I know it pretty well. And I'm practically willing to guarantee that if you pause to look at it again, you're going to feel completely differently about the characters and the choices they make and the lives they live. You might even change your opinion of them. Turn it over and over and over again, because in it are new stories, not just the stories of the Torah, but our stories waiting to be unlocked through our new set of eyes. We turn to page 371. We think of the stories of those who are ill in need of healing, those who are suffering from physical ailments, spiritual ailments, those who are in need of wholeness. We mention the names of Charlotte Fiwas, Stacy Lewis, Maria Schoen, Katrina Joy Rogers, Eddie Sankery, Mike Fox, Ann Westerman, William Westerman, Robert Bogan, Christopher Long, Karen Delavan, Kevin Delavan, Sherry Goldstein, Dee Steer, Robert Diamond, Bob Schmitz, Mimi Grossman, Fred Boyd, Brittany Elaine Drake, Len Anthony, Jody Platt, Myron Morgan, Gordon Brody, Harry Phillip, Lee Schultz, Alvin Dyches, Clark Freeby, Laura Golden, Neil Tannenhouse, Sophie O'Brien, Terry Mann, Gary Mann, Judah Zimmerman, Renee Stanton, Jenny Solomon, Violet Larson, Sarah Tova, Amy Stein, Corey Hartman, and Genie Long. If you have other names you'd like to add, as I look through the sanctuary, feel free. Thank you. Thank you. We'll look over here. Thank you. Mishaberach Avotinu v'Imotinu Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech v'Yirapeh Et Cholim HaYikarim HaElu. O God, who best blessed our ancestors, strengthen them on their journeys, bring strength to us and to all those we have mentioned as we sing together.
Mishaberach Avotenu Makor HaBrecha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Makor HaBrecha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We turn to page 586. We rise for Elenu, Elizabeth, and Jennifer. You guys help me with those ark doors.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, שלא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. On this Shabbat, as we turn to Kaddish on 598, the words of Carol Ox. God really does create the world anew daily. This is one of the things that's hard to believe when we are in mourning. It's hard to believe that anything new will ever happen that could transform the way we presently feel. Rationally, it doesn't make sense. After all, another love doesn't replace the lost love. What makes creation new is not that there are other loves, but that we can become other. This is where healing comes in. If we didn't change, the fact that there were others to love would be irrelevant. We wouldn't be open to them. We discover that there are others to love because we are healed, not as a means of healing. So as God brings healing and enters into the emptiness of our loss and accepts our rage, our confusion, our pain, our sadness, slowly, gradually, organically, God shapes us to grow in a new way. On this Shabbat, in our mourning, we mention the names of those who passed away in the 30-day period of mourning known as Florsheim. If you are mourning one either this month or during this Yortzeit, the anniversaries of their death, if you're comfortable, feel free to rise when you hear their name mentioned, as is our custom. We mention on this Shabbat the Yortzeit, the Florsheim 30-day mourning of Lillian Deutsch, Elliot Blumberg, Sally Ann Fleck, Marjorie Headley. We add the Yortzeits, the names of Abe Annisman, Graham Baker, Abraham Beck, Isidore Karb, Chandler Granis Cohen, Irving J. Cohen, Louis Fells, Rebecca Foreman, Dorothy Friedman, Helen Stern Gernsbacher, Chester Gestring, Molly Ginsberg, Celeste Haas, Ida Jacobs, Jerry Lammensdorf, Carmen Letterman, B. Max Mell, Fanny Pottishman, Sam Resnikoff, Betty Rice, Doris Lakritz Roth, Dr. Norman Rubin, Elaine Gressman Sampson, Phyllis Siegel, Sarah Smulian, Lila Litwin Tuchen, Rose Ungar, Seymour Weiser, Hortense Weltman. As we recall them and others we remember at this time, we rise to bring strength to those who are in mourning this Shabbat. Page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabba, Bialma divrach yerutei v'amlich malchutei, B'chai chon v'yomei chon, B'chai d'chol beit Yisrael, Ba'agalal v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitala shmei d'kusha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiram bi'almal v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Hu say shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God bring wholeness and healing, strength to all who are broken, all who grieve this Shabbat, here and wherever they may be. And may we say together, amen. Please be seated. After our closing song, we'll join in Kiddush and Motzi, the wine that sanctifies this day, makes it stand out. Motzi, the blessing over bread, and we'll call up Callie in a couple of minutes to help us with the Motzi. Just want to wish you all Shabbat Shalom. Those of you at home, it's good to have you with us. Remember to check those e-blasts. There's always things going on in the temple bulletin. There will be some tables with COVID-safe, sealed snacks. Feel free to munch, take them with you, whatever. And a reminder that if you do linger for a moment, there's a wonderful exhibit of the windows of the last temple building. It's to the left, right as you leave here. And if you have any questions about it, we have our great archivist Hollis here who would be happy to answer your questions, I know. We turn to page 600 and... you think I know it by heart. 25 for Adon Olam. And Genie, thank you. Jennifer and Elizabeth, thank you. Tomorrow they're leading like almost the whole service, so I'll just be very relaxed and enjoying Shabbat tonight before tomorrow's Shabbat morning service. Thank you for helping lead us in prayer tonight.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra Le'et Nasa V'chefzo kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimlok nora Ve'hu haya ve'hu hoveh Ve'hu yeh b'tifara Ve'hu yeh b'tifara Ve'hu echad ve'em sheni להמשילו להכבירה בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמזרע ולא העוז והמזרע והוא אלי וחי גואלי וצור חבלי בעת שערה והוא ניסי ומחנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום הקרא, מנת כוסי ביום הקרא, בידו אקי ברוכי, בעת אישן ואירה, ואמרוכי וביארי, אדוני לי ולא אירא, אדוני לי ולא אירא.
Genie, I'm going to bring you this big glass of wine. Here you go, page 123. Please rise as we join in the blessing over wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei b'ri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahavat v'ratzon inchilanu zikaro l'maaseh reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziyah mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta v'yota anu kidashta michol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahavat uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. Callie, come on up and help us with the blessing over bread. Da-da, here you go. I can lift it up. You want to lift it up? I mean, get up so everybody can see you. Here we go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lehem min haaretz. Amen.
Amen. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom at home. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. You did great. You can have some if you want. I don't know if that's near a frozen collar. No?
It's okay.
You're really good to go. You're going to have a better dinner at home, right? You guys are going to a nice steakhouse. I don't enjoy. Thank you, Callie. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, guys.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good, Russ. We got next week.